So we are dealing with the public sector. So a public sector is referred as the state or the government that is responsible to provide the public goods to the citizens, and it's also responsible to collect the taxes from the households and the firms. So for these lines that you see here, you need to master the circular flow diagram in order for you to easily remember these three lines. You understand? Right. So let's go straight to the composition of the public sector. When we are talking about the composition of the public sector, we are dealing with the structure, how the public sector is formed, right? So we've got three types of government, which is the national government, provincial government, and also the local government, right? So what is a national government? It is the first layer of the state or the government that is responsible to create laws and runs the country. The provincial government, it is the second layer of the government that is responsible to administer the provinces, or that is responsible to look after the provinces. The third one, it is the local government, which is the third layer of government that is responsible to look after the municipalities, right? So you know what, we have got two types of municipalities, which is district municipality and a metropolitan municipality. So what is a district municipality? It is a type of a municipality that looks after the rural areas, so it excludes the cities. Gandilapana, we have the metropolitan municipality, which looks after the urban areas, so it does include the cities. So we have, let's move straight to the necessities of the public sector. So what do we mean when we are dealing with the necessities of the public sector? So when we are talking about the necessities of the public sector, it's whereby we are talking about the essentials, or we are talking about the core functions that can help the state, or that can help the government to ensure the national stability. So the first one, it is the provision of the public goods. The second one, it is controlling the economy. The third one, it is the protection of the environment. So we know that whenever we are talking about the public goods, public goods, they've got their own characteristics. They are non-excludable and non-rivalry, meaning the consumption by one does not diminish the consumption by others. Right, so we've got different types of public goods that are provided by the state, which is the community goods. We've got collective goods, and we also have merit goods. So what are community goods? Those are goods that are made to benefit the community. Gandu collective, those are goods that are made to benefit everyone. Gandu merit, those are goods that are not harmful to the society. So we go straight to controlling the economy. How does government controls the economy? The main thing that the government uses is the government policies. So the government controls the economy using the government policies, using the fiscal policy together with the monetary policy. Right. So how does government implement these rules, right, to control the economy? So it might happen that the economy is at the peak. So in order for a government to put the economy in the right direction, the government needs to use the government policies, right, so that we can be able to move from the peak to the trough. And it can happen, the situation of the economy, maybe let's say it's at the trough now. So in order for a government to put the economy in the right direction, we need to experience the upswing. So we use the government policies to experience the upswing, which means we use the taxation, we use the government expenditure together with the monetary policy, right? So we use these government policies to put the economy in the right direction. So that's how the government controls the economy. And the government can also control the economy by limiting the anti-competitiveness behavior. And that's the second one. The government can also control the economy by improving the economic growth and development. So let's go straight to the protection of the environment. How does the government protect the environment? And why does the government protect the environment? So the government protects the environment through sustaining the environment and protecting the natural resources. Why do we protect the natural resources? So we protect the natural resources because we use the natural resources in order for us to produce public goods or to produce any type of a good. You understand? So we need to make sure that we do protect the natural resources, because they play a very massive role when it comes to GDP of a country, right? So let's move straight to the problems. So how the problems are generated in this case. So This is what you need to know. During the midst of the provision of the public goods, the government, it happens that the government experiences what? The problem. If ever the government tries to provide the citizens with the public goods, the government end up experiencing, let us say, gamma problems. So we created the acronym, which is APEEP, right? I normally say, for a student to remember, the student must say, Amanda, please protect everyone against poverty. So the first A, it's for assessing of needs. The first P is for pricing policy. The second P is for parastatals. The E is for efficiency. A is for accountability. And P is for the privatization / nationalization, right? So in this case, if ever we are experiencing these problems, the government is trying by all means. In this case, let me just put it like this. So during the midst of the provision of the public goods, the government ends up experiencing the problems, which are the ones that we listed, right? So you need to deal with them, right? So we have the reasons of the public sector failure. The reasons for the public sector failure, we created the acronym which is say leg squared bars. What does it mean? So the first leg is for the lack of management. The second leg is for the lack of motivation. Then B, it's for bureaucracy. A is for empathy. Then S is for structural weakness. And S is for special interest groups. So these are the reasons for public sector failure, for public sector to fail providing the public goods and services to the citizens, or when the public sector fails to ensure the stability in the country. So these are the reasons that we get, right? So starting with the lack of the lack of management. So the lack of management, it is created through the ignorance of the training and improving skills, right, of the public servant. So if the public servants, they lack the skills, automatically the management will fail, right? So we move straight to the lack of motivation. Lack of motivation, this happens when the public sector ignores, this happens when we have the ignorance of receiving the incentives and benefits for successful service delivery. So if ever the public servants, they are not awarded for their successful service delivery, they end up being demotivated, and they end up maybe doing this thing which is called corruption. So they end up not putting the full effort on the service delivery, right? So we have the bureaucracy, the third one, which is bureaucracy, and it is created through the ignorance of reducing laws for the expense of service delivery. Then we have the empathy, which is created through the ignorance of accountability in service delivery. So if the public sector servants are not accountable, this is what I call lack of feelings. If the public sector servants, they are not accountable, if ever they do not own up the mistakes that they made, it becomes a problem. The public sector servants, they need to be transparent to the citizens. If ever there was a mistake that took place during the provision of the public goods, they should man up on it, or they should be accountable to it, right? So we have the structural weakness. So what is a structural weakness? A structural weakness, it occurs when the objectives are not met due to the misaligning of government policies. So if the government policies, they are going against each other, so automatically the government will fail to ensure the stability in the country, because this policy says another thing and this policy says the opposite. Yeah? So it end up becoming a problem. That thing is called a structural weakness. So we have a special interest groups as the last one. What is a special interest group? So that is a group of people who attempts to influence the government for their own benefits. So they try to influence the government for their own benefits. They do not care about how the society feels, right? So they end up gathering and try to approach the government and try to influence the government in order for them to benefit. So these are the reasons for a public sector failure, and these are the problems of public sector provisioning. Right, so thank you so much. We'll be moving to the next lesson, which is a budget.